Durag Wisdom here, folks, and welcome to Earth Date Y2K 18.08.01, with just 97 days to the midterm elections, now in double digits. Today I want to talk about a movie called The Quiet Place and its empty noise. And I realize there's so many other more important things to talk about, but I don't want to take away part of the theme of this page. But please feel free to view it, and if you wish to not or do want to respond, whatever you want to do, I just want to stay within the promised ideas I have behind the theme of this page. I realize that much of my site is made up of politics, and that is great because politics is also an important part of this page. Since the people we elect to run things have profound influence on our lives, politics and everything it affects must be foremost in any news commentary page. I forgot to mention that the weather too should be an important part of a news commentary page, but that is for another time. Today, again, I have to talk about a movie that quite simply pissed me off. It is a science with quotes fiction horror monster movie entitled A Quiet Place. Now, warning, spoilers are ahead. Spoilers are ahead. A Quiet Place is directed by and stars John Krasinski as Lee Abbott, patriarch of a family of 5. 2 boys and 1 girl. Regan Abbott, played compellingly by Millicent Simmons, who in the movie is deaf. His wife, played by Emily Blunt, is his solid spouse, named Evelyn. Noah Jupe plays older son Marcus, and Leon Rossum plays the youngest son Beau. The picture is co-produced by Michael Bay. The cinematography is by Charlotte Bruce Christensen. Film editing is by Christopher Tellefsen. The script is co-written by Krasinski, Scott Beck, and Brian Woods. 3 men. The mournfully evocative score by Marco Beltrami is one of the pluses of this film. The movie runs for 90 tight minutes, with its last hour or so, give or less, being relentlessly suspenseful. Since there is little dialogue in the picture, it depends for its suspense also on its ingenious sound design, headed by Eric Ardal. And also, the monsters are just as cute as you can get. Their whole faces open up. It's just so cute. And so I have to credit special effects coordinator David Anderson and creature coordinator Jacob Buck. I wish I could list all the names involved, but please refer to the Internet Movie Database. I try to sit through and respect the entire end titles of a movie, except when it is a real stinker. This movie is not a stinker, but it did piss me off nevertheless. When the movie opens, the first images are of devastation. Our planet has been invaded by blind, fast, voracious monsters. Their hearing is super acute, and the slightest sound we make draws them to us with murderous fury. Most people have had to move into soundproof basements. Everything is chaos. We never see how they invaded us, nor is anything really explained. All that the audience knows is that the monsters are here and we are on the run. The picture focuses in on one family, the Abbotts. Abbott! And how they survive. Among the names that I mentioned before, Michael Bay is the one that stands out. The movie that I enjoyed, directed by him, was The Rock. Other than that, as far as I'm concerned, his films are empty-headed fecal effects garbage cans. A Quiet Place turns out to be no exception to this rule, except for the emphasis on character. I viewed A Quiet Place twice, as it turned out to be filled with empty noise all the same. Just wanted to be sure. The Abbotts at the beginning of the film I call it the prologue, are doing shopping in the local deserted town during this opening. We see that they are walking barefoot. We also see that the family only uses signing to communicate. I thought that this was an important, very important component to the picture, and it fooled me into thinking that I was going to see something artfully intelligent. American Sign Language is a language that should be learned. Its use in this picture is important toward our understanding of what it means to be deaf. The reason these folks have to be barefoot and the reason they have to use sign language is that they must always be quiet. These invaders have such powerful hearing that it's almost as if they weren't blind. The movie then had to use its sound immersive design to keep us also aware of the dangers. Our hearing and those of the characters had to also be acute. By the way, you get a really nice and visceral view of the creature's ear. It has a dark spot in that it is almost like an eyeball. The initial conflict is established when Regan gives her youngest brother the model space shuttle behind her father's back. The kid found it in this abandoned store because she wanted him to have it. They're signing and she's saying, you know, Father Lee had taken out the batteries and told Bew to leave the thing, trying to explain to him that it's dangerous. Once his older sister gives it to him anyway, after the parents leave with the other children, this innocent kid takes the batteries, and by the end of the prologue, as they are crossing the bridge on their way to their farm, the youngest is murdered by one of the invaders because his space shuttle toy made its mechanical sound because he had placed the batteries back into the thing. Cut to the title of the film. Cut to the first act of the film, like 42 days later. And this act is quite short, and it illustrates how these folks have to live and how they run their farm. It is amazing the things that they have to do in order to stay alive. One night, the surviving children, Regan and Marcus, both of these actors I hope have successful careers, are playing a board game when one of them accidentally knocks over a gas lamp and almost starts a fire. Lee puts out the flames with no problem, but then we have to deal with the real danger. The sound the lamp made when it fell. So here the audience is treated to what we believe is an attack by these creatures. But it turns out to be just field mice, cute big fat ones, or the like, which at the end of this act, one of them gets smashed by the hand of an alien who hears it. We cut then to what I think is the final act of the film, which takes up the rest of the movie, the second act, like 300 and something days later. Evelyn, we learn, is pregnant. More about that in a minute when I get outraged. This is where I became very agitated. This was when I started to really question the message of the movie. First, I really want to know how these blind monsters landed on our planet. I know that Lee has a basement workroom with monitors and the like. I see he is studying what they are. There are news clippings which I can barely read since I don't attend movie theaters anymore and watch all my pictures on my large 57-inch TV screen. But movies are designed basically to be watched in a movie theater. It looks, according to, squinting my eyes on my TV screen, like these creatures came in on a meteor, maybe. But who directed this invasion? What is the goal of these invaders? And are they simply going to eat everything? And then what? Personally, I don't see how these creatures could have gotten here. Being blind, how could they navigate? Also, the idea that sound could also kill them if it is loud enough is a dumb reminder of how some movies end up killing off their invading monsters the dumbest, most stupidest, easiest way that they can. The only thought I had, though, is how stupid the humans were for not logically understanding this in the first place. Movies like this will bludgeon you with suspense to cover up their muddy logic, and I hate to be abused in that way. Second, I don't understand how Evelyn could be so stupid as to not check her stairways for exposed nails she or her kids could possibly step on. They are walking around barefoot all the time, after all. I don't understand how her dumbass husband Lee could take their son on a survival training trip when the wife is pregnant and about to drop the load. That is right. In this horrifically bleak and dangerous world where they lost their youngest kid to these creatures, these creeps are having another. Why not? Why not gamble with another person's life? I know that the filmmakers wanted to make a point about survival and about replenishing the human race with hope, but I just do not buy it. I am not an optimist about the human race. When I saw that Evelyn was pregnant, I hated her guts. And her douchebag husband Lee for irresponsibly gambling with another person's existence. The only reason that he and his son went out on that trip was so the filmmakers could fill the last 45 minutes or so of this stupid masterpiece with suspense, which could have been avoided if Lee and Evelyn cut each other's cords. I love the music. I love the child characters, but I despise the grown-ups. Now here's the personal part. My father suffered from severe PTSD following his World War II Mortal Kombat experiences. His physical health did not help, but he worked hard during the day and made me miserable when he thought he was helping. My mother suffered from severe manic depressive psychosis. Growing up in this family was something that I never really recovered from, and that's too bad. But just plain dumb luck, as simple as that. These two should have never had any children. But that they did because that was what was expected. And unthinking people went along with it to perpetuate this wonderful species, which had just gotten through with World War II and was now in the midst of another war. And for the next years, for my entire life, it would be involved in all sorts of other things, and to the point we elect a reality show maggot piece of shit fascist to our society, to our government. We give him credence. I have rectified their mistake and never had my own children. Considering what has happened to our lives and to our planet since the dawn of Y2K, I refuse to gamble and refuse to play with people's lives. I don't want to now list here all the things that makes me miserable about this wretched existence. But at least I did not inflict it on anyone else. The creators of A Quiet Place have a positive outlook. For them, the world could be crawling with human monsters, but that is okay. Bring on the new blood with hearts and flowers into a quiet place filled with empty and evil noise.